Welcome to Off Top. My name is Dylan Wilson, and today we're talking about Dez Bryant. But before we get into all that, I need to thank everyone who took the time to watch my last video. I was geeking out when I had 100 views and 10 likes, so to see where it is now is way better than anything I was expecting. And I'll link it down in the description for anyone wanting to know who's really better between Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz. And it really seemed like y'all appreciated how well thought out and thorough the video was. And that means a lot to me, because even if you disagree with me, I want you to at least be able to come away appreciating the logic. So with that in mind, let's get into this Dez Bryant discussion and determine if the Cowboys should bring him back. And this is actually the perfect time to have this conversation, because against the Vikings, I don't know about you, but there was a play at the end there where I caught myself thinking, if the Cowboys still had Dez, they would have won this game.
Prescott, buying time, launching one. A whole passel of guys in the end zone. It's going to be intercepted to end the game. And Castle is able to escape. Has to come back this way. Flings one toward the end zone. It's a jump ball, and it's almost caught. It is caught at the end.
Wow. I mean,
that's
what a
crazy.
mess.
That is just crazy.
And he goes above the world.
Yeah, that game never should have came down to a Hail Mary in the first place, but the point still stands. There's plays Dez can make for this team. And that brings us to his tweet. He said, "I'm not trying to go nowhere and be a starter on a team. I want to contribute because I know I'll be able to. I'm feeling good. In 2 weeks, I'm going to reach out to teams and see what happens. Let's go. X." To start, props to him for accepting a backup role. It's never easy letting go of your pride, and I actually think he's going to thrive in this role. This will be the very first time we truly see Dez not draw on the other team's top corner and or double coverage. He's going to be seeing nothing but one-on-ones against the other team's second or third best corner. For that reason alone, I 100% believe him when he says he can go to a team and contribute. In his prime, we're talking about one of the most freakish jump ball receivers we've ever seen. And a man who turns into Marshawn Lynch when he has the ball in his hands. The last we saw of Dez, injured and at his worst, he was still making plays like this.
From the 13-yard line, Prescott, end zone, Dez goes up and gets it! Touchdown, Cowboys!
Giants showing blitz right up the middle. Here they come from the other side. Bryant makes a great catch and loses Dixon. Dez Bryant all the way. Touchdown.
I still believe Dez can be a dangerous player. At the very, very least, he can be of great help to a team that needs help in the red zone. But Dez, he's at his best in situations where you're desperate. When the blitz is closing in and you don't have time to wait for your receivers to get open. When you just got to heave it up and pray that your guy can somehow go up and make a play. Dez will make that play, much more often than not.
Romo floats one up in the air. Juggle. Dez Bryant. Oh, spectacular grab by one. Bryant wins the matchup.
Well, he caught it twice. The ball is going to go off his hands there, and as he's falling, he reaches over the top of Joseph's helmet to pull it in. What concentration. Joseph played it perfectly. He split the hands of Bryant, but...
So where does he fit into the Cowboys' rotation? Right now, it's crowded. But if you look across the room, nobody on the team has Dez's skill set. You can cut Ventel Bryant and Devin Smith right now and not miss anything. Add Dez to the mix, and you have Amari Cooper, your clear-cut number one and phenomenal route runner. Michael Gallup, a possession receiver that gets you them dirty yak yards. Randall Cobb, a slot receiver that doesn't necessarily do anything spectacular, but stretches the field in ways Cole Beasley couldn't. Tavon Austin, a backup slot receiver that's mainly here for his return skills. And Cedric Wilson, a big receiver with good hands that provides depth both on the outside and in the slot. Now, I would argue that a healthy Dez, even past his prime, is the second best receiver on this team. In a lot of ways, he's a more athletic version of Gallup. Difference being Dez is one of the greatest ever at attacking the ball in the air, and he's even more physical after the catch. But if you want to keep Gallup as a starter and not take any of his snaps away, I'm 100% with you. Because fortunately, the Cowboys have been running a lot of 11 personnel this season. Now what's 11 personnel? It's 3 wide receivers and 1 running back. Hypothetically, you can easily have Cooper, Gallup, and Dez all on the field at the same time. But first, let's take a look at what 11 personnel currently looks like for the Cowboys. As you can see, we have Cooper and Gallup on the outside with Cobb in the slot. And this is solid, but Dez can make it a lot better. If we take Cobb off the field for Dez, naturally we think he's going to step in at his same position. That doesn't have to be the case though, which I'll explain why here in a minute. But the Cowboys can theoretically play Dez in the slot if they want to. Dez didn't play inside often, but don't get it twisted. That's an indictment on the coaching staff's stubbornness, not Dez's route running. When Dez did line up in the slot, he was always effective. Dez is the type of player you want to get the ball to in space and let him work the middle of the field. Because when it comes down to it, nobody wants to tackle him. But of course, if you have it in your head that every slot receiver must run Cole Beasley types of underneath routes, Dez won't fit that description. But you have to keep in mind that not even Randall Cobb is running Cole Beasley types of underneath routes. He's mainly been running slants, outs, and go routes, the same routes Dez made a career out of. Cobb's just been doing it from the middle of the field. So the same way Cobb stretches the field in ways Beasley couldn't, Dez would do the same, but also add an element of contested catching and yak ability that Cobb doesn't. Let's just take a look at one of Cobb's biggest plays this year.
3rd down and 10. Late blitz, pass caught. Cobb fights through a tackle and gets a 1st down.
That's a play Dez has made routinely throughout his career.
Most of these seasons. What a move by Dez Bryant. And that springs him.
And Romo under pressure, but he's going to scramble. Comes back across the field. It's caught by Bryant. And Dez Bryant will take it to the end zone.
Quickly to Dez Bryant. What a one-handed catch by Bryant. Using his strength. Leaping to the end zone. Touchdown.
From the 35. Romo dumps it off to Bryant. And Dez Bryant has a 1st down and more. Inside the 10. The 5 still going. Touchdown.
In as a receiver, wide right. Romo once again. 3rd straight play to Bryant.
Here comes the blitz. They get it away quick. Go far side. What a move. Dez Bryant. He's trying to go all the way. One man to beat. Bryant takes it home. Touchdown, Dallas.
4-man rush after Prescott. Over the middle. Caught. Dez Bryant out of the witness protection program and trying for the end zone. How about them Cowboys? Touchdown, Dallas.
Plays like that become more commonplace when you replace Cobb with Dez. But just because Cobb is coming off the field doesn't mean Dez has to man his position. When Dez is on the field, Cooper or Gallup can just as easily move inside. With Gallup in the slot, you can get a lot more of the traditional fades and crows you're accustomed to seeing from Dez. And in my previous video, I said Dez was a bad scheme fit. But that had a lot more to do with where Dak was in his career. Because Dak has improved leaps and bounds from where he was as a downfield passer. And he's much more comfortable now taking shots than he used to be. But when Romo would broadcast for Dak and Dez games, he would highlight how Dak just couldn't grasp how to properly throw it to him. You'd see a lot of throws at his feet or straight line throws instead of all these rainbows he's dropping in the breadbasket now. And that's where Dez excels. Make him jump for it. Because even when it looks like he's covered, he's not. Because nobody can high point the ball better than him. And now that Dak can consistently make those throws, Dez would add a whole nother dimension to the offense. Because how many times have we seen Dak in a pinch and he just has to throw it up to Cooper or Gallup? And it falls incomplete because that's just not their game. Dez would get those targets instead and be a security blanket in that sense. Playing Cooper in the slot is where it gets interesting. We've seen some of it this year, but not with Dez out wide. You'd have your best route runner getting free releases all over the middle of the field, drawing in the safeties wherever he goes, and your 2 most consistent possession receivers would be lined up on the outside with 1 man to beat and no safety help. I'm here to tell you right now, Dez and Gallup would eat that coverage alive. But that's in an ideal world. We've seen what a less than ideal world looks like against the Jets when Cooper left with injury. If for some reason Cooper were to miss time again, or heck, even need a breather, wouldn't you rather have Dez, Gallup, and Cobb out there as opposed to Gallup, Cobb, and Wilson, for example? It's the same situation with Gallup out. He's already missed games this year, and we watched the offense suffer without him. If that scenario were to repeat itself, I'd rather have Cooper, Dez, and Cobb over Cooper, Cobb, and Wilson, because wide receiver depth is proven to be invaluable this year. And since we've already gone over how much Dez can help the team, let's talk about why, in all likelihood, it probably won't happen. You remember after that loss to Seattle in 2017 that eliminated the Cowboys from the playoffs? Dez in his post-game interview alluded to coaching being the problem. He indirectly criticized Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan for running the same plays and lining everybody up in the same spots for 17 weeks. Which, if we're being honest, is exactly what fans have been criticizing for the last 9 years. But since Dez came out and publicly said it, it eventually led to his release. Dez wasn't perfect and was clearly playing below his standard, but the predictable play calling and lack of creativity definitely did him no favors. But instead of the coaches acknowledging they played a major part in his drop in production, they chose to place the blame squarely on him by releasing him and in turn scapegoated him for their failures. Dez had to have felt vindicated when the Cowboys not only didn't get better without him, as they tried to convince everybody they would, but got exponentially worse and were forced to trade a first-round pick for wide receiver help. Fortunately for the Cowboys, it worked, and Dak and Cooper turned out to be a match made in heaven. But it still wasn't enough to overcome the terrible play calling, which is why Scott Linehan got fired. So, let's take a look at this timeline. First, Dez criticized the predictable offense, said the coaches need to be more creative. Dez was then released for his comments and for his lack of production within the predictable and uncreative offense. Then halfway through the next year, the offense remained predictable, so Dallas was forced to trade for Amari Cooper to compensate for the lack of creativity. And then by year's end, Scott Linehan was fired for his predictable and uncreative offense. You cannot make this stuff up. And I was wearing my Dez Knows t-shirt that day, by the way. So tell me again where Dez was wrong. Look at this tweet and tell me it isn't exactly what every Cowboys fan has been saying for nearly a decade now. He called it garbage-ass play calling and said everybody lined up in the same spots for 17 weeks. Tyrel Owens even said the same things. He said Jason Garrett doesn't know how to make adjustments. He can't keep running the same plays over and over and over. The coaches have to put players in the best positions to succeed, meaning game planning, game adjustments, personnel adjustments. You can't keep running the same obvious plays in the same formations. But hey, maybe Dez and T.O. were just disgruntled diva wide receivers. But the problem with that is, now that I think about it, even Amari Cooper was frustrated with the play calling. Remember his 75-yard touchdown catch against the Eagles last year? Here's a snippet from Clarence Hill regarding that play. It was first and 10 at the 25 after the Eagles tied the game at 16-16. He was supposed to run a stop route on the play but encouraged quarterback Dak Prescott to change the call because the cornerback had been playing underneath all game. It's interesting because I actually had another stop route on that play, and they were, if you were watching, really sitting on those stop routes, Cooper said. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So when I broke the huddle, I was kind of mad, and I was like, Dak, come on. And he was like, just run it, bro. And I guess he thought about it again and kind of signaled a go route, and I was elated when he did that. And I took off, caught the ball, and scored. I'll link the full article down in the description. So the more we learn about this situation, the more clear it becomes that it came down to an internal struggle between Dez Bryant and Jason Garrett. From Dez's perspective, all he wanted was for the regressive offense to adapt and grow, try new things. But Jason Garrett made an example out of him. That's why he felt betrayed when Jason Garrett and the Garrett guys, the Garrett yes men, turned on him and drove him out of Dallas. Dez was 100% right in everything he said. But unfortunately for him, the collective voices of Jason Garrett and the guys who backed him held more weight than his did. And that's why it became personal for Dez. But even after all this, really, what has changed? It hasn't even been a week since the coaching staff sabotaged the offense yet again, ultimately costing them another game. All this for the sake of establishing the run. even though Dak was killing them all night. So with all that in mind, let's finally weigh the pros and cons of Dallas re-signing Dez. Starting with the pros. Dez is willing to be a backup. He'd be one of the 3 best wide receivers on the team. Cooper and Gallup would command the top 2 corners, so Dez would be facing the most favorable coverage of his career. He can play both inside and outside, so he's interchangeable anywhere. He adds depth to a group that's been battling injuries. His jump ball ability adds another dimension that's currently missing from the offense. He can flat out make plays that no other receiver on the roster can. Dak is now at a level where he and Dez will be great for each other because of how improved he is as a downfield passer. He'd signed for cheap, around the league minimum. He's an excellent run blocker. He loves Dallas, grew up a Cowboys fan, wanted to be a Cowboy for life. He's still beloved by his teammates. We just saw Jalen Smith throw up the X for his birthday, and he's more humbled and motivated than ever. Now let's weigh the cons. He's past his prime, but he can still be great because of his unique skill set. He hasn't played since 2017, but he'd be back in game shape in time for the playoffs. He's coming off a major injury, but you have to imagine his familiarity with the organization only helps to speed the recovery process on the field and off it. Now here are the real issues. He publicly, and rightfully, criticized the coaching staff and play calling. And remember earlier in the video when I said it's never easy letting go of your pride? This last one is exactly why I don't believe it's realistic for the Cowboys to re-sign Dez. The coaching staff and front office would essentially be admitting he was right all along by bringing him back. I just can't see that happening. Too much bad blood. So should the Cowboys bring back Dez? Absolutely. But will they? Probably not. That's why the cons weigh heavier. But if Dez is setting his pride aside and accepting a backup role for the betterment of the team, maybe Jason Garrett can set his pride aside and bring him back for the betterment of the team. Hey, they say time heals all wounds. It makes too much football sense to not consider it. I mean, can you imagine how great this offense could look with Cooper, Gallup, and Zeke all drawing coverage away from Dez? The same Dez that can still go up and make plays like this when you need him most?
Felix Jones at tailback for the end zone, and there he is again, Dez Bryant. What an effort.
Going to throw here on first down for the long ball. Down the sideline, and what a catch! That's Dez Bryant who takes it away from McKelvin for the Cowboys touchdown.
Romo going for Bryant. Pass is caught for the touchdown.
Romo going deep for Dez Bryant. Oh, he leaps for it.
Dez Bryant lays out, goes down. Did he have his arm under?
Play clock winding down. Cowboys get the snap away. Romo to the end zone. Touchdown. Dez Bryant.
Bryant's going to go up and win that battle.
Bryant's first catch today.
Bryant and Witten looking Bryant's way, and Bryant has it. Grab it and maintain it. He comes down kind of awkward. It's bobbling around. Get control of it before he gets out of bounds as he goes down. Romo out to his right. Pass is caught. Tony Romo gives him an opportunity, and that's this guy's greatness right here. Dez Bryant.
This year. Prescott toward the end zone. Bodies tangled. Flag down. Catch made by Dez Bryant for a touchdown if it stands.
In my lifetime, I've never seen a player more misunderstood than Dez. People, probably intentionally, mistook his passion for the game as him being selfish or a distraction, despite all his teammates stating otherwise. He was the emotional leader of the team, the same way Michael Irvin was. Tony Romo even said Dez never once demanded the ball to be thrown to him. The man just lived and breathed football and wanted to win more than anything. You could tell he was a fan playing the game, which made sense since he grew up a Cowboys fan. The way he fought for every pass, how he just refused to get tackled. I've never seen a guy play his heart out the way Dez did. And you could feel that passion just watching him play. Him throwing up the X was electrifying for Cowboys fans. It was like watching The Rock perform the People's Elbow. Dez may or may not ever play for the Cowboys again, but the fans will always have love for him. Throw up the X. And this was Off Top. I hope you all enjoyed the second episode. I've been working on a ton of videos recently, but this one jumped to the front of the line after Dez's tweet. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm rooting for it. Regardless, I wish him well wherever he goes. And again, thank you to all of you for watching. I appreciate you. Peace.